We are very close to Dandora.
Oh, I see. We are live. We are live. Now we can proceed. Thank you.
Welcome to our today's Zoom meeting. My name is Anthony Murimi. I'm a mathematician by profession. I teach area of applied mathematics. And I'm glad to moderate this meeting about teachers and doctors. Is it a calling or a source of income? So I'm privileged to moderate this meeting, and I welcome you all so that we learn from each other and sharpen each other. When I was thinking about this topic, there are points that came in my mind that I would want us to discuss about them. And these points are: one, what do we mean by a calling, and what we mean by a talent? Because some people, they claim that they are talented in a certain field. Others claim that it is a calling. But again, it's a tricky topic, which I believe it is a 50-50 win. Some are as a result of calling. Others are just there for just a source of income. And I'm giving a breakdown on what we can be thinking about. Like, we have seen so many private hospitals around, so many private institutions. And again, the services are also very different. 2 weeks ago, I was in a public hospital. I was given good consultation, but again, by the end of it all, I was sent away for a private entity where I would receive the drugs and whatever that the doctor recommended. I never spent a coin in that public hospital, but now when you go out to the private clinic, I spent a lot to buy the drugs that were recommended. So again, is it a calling or a source of income? You wonder. We also have an issue with the, like, you find most of public schools, when you compare with the private, the performance is quite different. Right now we have strike, but private universities, the learning is just normal. So it's a quite interesting topic to learn from. Another issue is when you go to those private hospitals and the private institutions, the lecturers are the same. The doctors are the same. They serve you very well, but when you go to public hospital, it's a bit strenuous to get services. There are so many chemists around, and when you find out, you realize those who own those chemists are the same people who are working in public hospitals. So again, you wonder, Was it a calling or was it just a source of income? And you realize wherever you had, it is not giving you enough, so you need to get out and open a private hustle somewhere. There was another issue I was thinking about when I was told to moderate this topic. And this issue was about the career. All of us, like when you remember when you were in high school, everybody wanted to do medicine, everybody wanted to be an engineer. But by the end of it all, very few qualified. Like I also wanted to be a doctor, I want to do medicine, but today I'm teaching mathematics. And I ask myself every time when we start this career, when we think about this career, what is the head point of this? Salary. You compare a doctor will have a good salary than a teacher. Maybe an engineer will have a higher income than technician. So it's an area to think about. But I would like to open the floor. First, before I open the floor for everyone, there is calling, which is a strong urge towards a particular way of life or career. Profession is a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and a formal qualification. So the two are related. It's a career and it is a paid occupation. Meaning, if you're not paid, then you would serve as a doctor, you would serve as a teacher. Again, you spend a lot before you get into that profession. So I would like to hear, or I would like us to contribute to once the idea about what's the difference between a talent and a profession. Profession is almost similar to calling.
Can I proceed?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the only difference between the talent is whether one is inborn and whether the other one is sort of acquired. So talent is of course naturally you are born with it. It's a special gift. It's a special gift of nature, or a special ability that you're naturally born with. That is not commonly available among people. That is normally the key about it. It has to be special, and that special, but the word special means it's not common. So, like you cannot say you have a talent of walking because 90% of people can walk. Uh, but if you are only like 1% of the world could walk, and you're among that 1%, then we could say you have a talent in walking. So it's a special gift that is very rare and natural. But when it comes to profession, of course, profession is something you acquire. So there could be a link. There could be an nexus between profession and talent. You can maybe have a talent there are people who are talented, let's say in math. They are very good with numbers, so they pursue a profession in physics or in mathematics or in quantum physics or those mathematic oriented things. So a talent can lead you to a profession based on because it gives you a good ability. But it's not the other way around. But it's not necessary that you have a talent to have a profession. You can choose to go and do what professions you feel like. Yeah, I think that's how I look at the two.
Thank you, Maurice. I think one of the points that I've learned from you is one is inborn, the other one is acquired through training. And you can't have, like, you cannot serve very well in a given profession if it is not it is linked with the inborn skill or a talent. So that's very true. Dorcas,
Morioki's hand was up before mine. Morioki, you changed your mind?
Yeah, I think MJ said what I wanted to say. That's like I only said talent is like it's inborn. That's what MJ said. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I saw that. I didn't want to overtake you. Now, what's the difference between your talent and your profession? Could you please repeat the definition of profession?
profession is a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and a formal qualification. Calling a strong urge towards a particular way of life or career.
Okay, great. So, from that definition of profession, I think it has very little to do with one's talents. I think it is maybe just what one chooses to do to earn a living. I remember there was one individual who was in a company meeting, and then they were saying that ever since I was a little child, I wanted to be a total quality manager. And I thought to myself, this guy's lying. No child, while growing up, they are playing around with their friends, will be busy saying, one day I'll be a total TQM expert. How? They don't even know what that is. So I have a feeling that the profession is often what one does out of logical reasons. It's a bit removed from one's passion or one's calling. In that it just describes what you do. So it may or may not involve your passion, your talent, or your calling. And for most people, I argue that their profession is not necessarily linked to their passion or their talent. Many people choose a certain profession because of convenience, because that is what was available. So even when we look at today's topic of doctors and teachers, you find that many people become teachers, especially teachers. especially teachers. Many people become teachers because they have no other option. They had 4 choices when applying for university. The first 2 were probably the ones where they have a calling, where they have talent for. And then the teaching is the last resort, it's the backup for the backup. And you find that because your profession is not linked to your talent or your calling, you just go through the motions. Your job is very unremarkable. The impact is sort of minimal. You put in the bare minimum effort when you are doing it because it was not linked to your talent. You just did it for convenience because you needed a source of income. And this course had low entry marks. You find that in education, it has low entry marks. Whereas for medicine, you find that there are some people who may not necessarily be talented in healing, but they might choose that profession because of other reasons. It might not be talent at all. It might be that source of income. It might be prestige. It might be parental pressure. They tell you, in this family of ours, we just have doctors. You have to follow the course that we have set for you. Or you can find that maybe somebody can do it because they want the chicks. Being a doctor is a chick magnet. If some lady meets you out there and then you tell her, hey, I'm a doctor, wow. and notice the gender difference. I'm using the lady scenario, a lady asking a guy what he does, and then he says he's a doctor, and that instantly makes him attractive. It makes you more marketable in the dating world. But if it's a woman who says she's a doctor in the dating world, unfortunately, that works against her because society is biased like that. They tend to want women not to be as accomplished as men, especially when one is looking for a spouse. They get intimidated by accomplished women. But yes, I digressed a bit, but I was giving examples of why people choose that profession of medicine, and it might not necessarily be linked to their talent. Now, that is profession. Let's look at talent. Talent, I think, is one's natural inclination to do something. It is it's what requires the least effort. You don't have to struggle when you're talented. You excel in it. By the way, even if I say you don't have to struggle while doing it, doesn't mean that you don't need to prepare for it. You don't need to practice. Using the example MJ brought forward, if you're an athlete, you have to practice every day. But you find that to such a person, it isn't so difficult. And when they get involved in a competition, they tend to excel in that particular situation. They find joy. They find it delightful to do that activity. So if you're talented, you have a natural inclination for something. So if your talent happens to coincide with your profession, I think you have it made. Ideally, we would all want to have talents that are in sync with our professions. Why? Because it makes it easier. You get up in the morning and you jump out of bed because, I can't wait to go and teach those kids in school. I love teaching. It's my talent and it's my calling. Then it also means that you can weather difficult circumstances. If the environment of teaching or the environment of medicine is difficult because of maybe logistical issues, enumeration issues, or administrative issues, you can still weather the storm because at the end of the day, you are talented and it's your calling. So yes, that's how I would respond to that question on the differences.
Thank you, Doc. That's so insightful. But there's something that you have made me to remember when I was in university. There's this guy who scored a clean A, but he decided to do Bachelor of Commerce just because he loved business field. And this is somebody who was qualified to do medicine straight at University of Nairobi. So I think some did not choose because of grade. It is their passion they wanted to pursue. However, 90% is, as you have said, yeah. El Maestro.
Okay, Anthony, what was the question again? Was the question the meaning of calling or
The difference between talent and profession.
or talent and profession?
Yes.
Okay, for me, I can just say casually that difference between talent and profession is talent is maybe inborn. It is it's not trained, but profession it's trained. Talent you can yes, talent you can train, but you train to improve that talent. But profession, it's you begin from zero and just start training and you become a profession in something. And it begins also in with education also. Yeah, that's the difference I can give.
Very nice. David?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Hello, everybody. Talent and profession. So talent, yes, talent is...
I'm getting static from David. David, I'm getting a lot of static. Maybe Anthony, you can mute.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Is that better? Otherwise, I can go without the microphone.
Yeah, we're still here. It's
oh
still
no.
there.
Okay, let me get rid of my earphones. Okay. How is that?
Yeah, I think that's better. Is it just me? Like it might still be there, but it's okay. Let's just proceed.
Yeah, it's a lot of echo.
How is that? Hello. Hey. Okay. Okay.
No talent there. No talent. There's no talent there.
I have no talent there. This is really bad. My casket, my earphone, my overhead, whatever, earphone. Yeah. Okay. So talent and profession. So we have agreed that one, you are born with it. The other one, you've got to go to school for. But talent, if you are never exposed to a piano or a keyboard or a guitar or bows and arrows, for that matter, if you are in the bush, you'll never know that you have this talent. So we have talents we are sitting on just because we were never in a situation where we could be exposed to that thing. So, and that's why people go to a profession, they do all those years, and they decide, no, I want to be building houses. But he's a doctor, or he's a mechanical engineer, but he wants to go and build houses or become a plumber. or become something else, because they had this knack for something and never could do it because they were not in a position to develop that, to get into that talent. So yes, talent, we've got lots of talents that we don't even know that we have them because we never had the opportunity. But then the profession is what we go to school for so that we can survive. But then we find that we probably do not like very much. We don't, after 10 years or whatever number of years studying something, you find that actually you don't like the job in that profession. So may we all be working with our talents instead of our professions. Thank you. I hope that answers the question. If it didn't answer the question, maybe Anthony, you can have me come again. Thanks.
Awesome. I think you have nailed it. We have so many talents, but lack of exposure, we will never understand them. We will never practice them. So that's very true. Exposure is the key point. Yes, Dorcas?
Okay, I don't know whether this will come in the future, whether you had planned on it or not, but I have a question related to that first question, because you're asking us to differentiate between talent and a profession. So I wonder, especially given what Ndeve has just said, do you guys know people who have a talent for becoming a doctor? How can you tell that this one will be a good doctor, that they have a talent for medicine? How can you tell? At least I know with teaching, that one is easy. You can tell. But for medicine, I don't know. I'd like to hear.
That's a very good question, Madam Dorcas. And before I contribute what is in my mind, let me give Muriuki, then Ndeve, the chance to say what is in their mind.
Okay, thanks. Doctors, is neither a veterinary? Are they in your group of questions? A vet?
Yes, you could say so. Yeah, that's a doctor for animals. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, if somebody likes animals, you see, like they are sensitive to animals. Like they don't want to see animals suffering. That can be a good vet. He can't stand animals suffering. So someone like that who has compassion for animals will make a good vet. Because like I know somebody who became a vet because they had a cat when they were young and the cat died. So that really bothered him. So he went to study to be a vet because his cat died when they were young. So that now he's a very good vet right now because when the cat died, he was affected. So he went to become a vet and now he's a good vet. Thanks. I'm done.
Anthony, you're muted.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And David?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah. So, so that one is it's a very good question to segue into, or rather to talk about those very difficult professions. And I think being a doctor and being a nurse, let's never forget, when you say doctor, you have to say nurse, because they go hand in hand. It is difficult. They've got all these hours and all these difficult situations. And you can meet a doctor or a nurse and you know that this person is not in the right place, shouldn't be there, should find something else to do. And you'll find a doctor and you think, well, okay, maybe not. And I think the one thing, there's a list of what doctors or what nurses, how they should be. If somebody is a doctor and they've got no empathy and patience for their patients, if they have no empathy, then they should not be in that, because you see a doctor when you are in a bad situation. You never go to see a doctor to say hello. You only go see a doctor when you are in a really bad situation. So you want empathy, you want somebody who is patient, you want a doctor somebody who will listen, and you can't have somebody who will tell you that, oh, it's just a headache, don't. One time I had to tell a replacement, my doctor was on leave, and the doctor who was there, the French people tend to be impatient with English speaking people, and he just kind of dismissed me, and I was in no mood. I guess, guys, you know me. I was in no mood. And I chewed his head over the tree, and I said, "What the heck? You'll never give me medicine, so you can't kill me." Like, look, when I was growing up, we used to be told that if we are problematic to the nurses, watatupatia dawa mbaya. So, but anyway, so if somebody does not have empathy and they minimize your pain, because you are the only one who knows your pain and your concerns, and then they really are not empathetic, and probably they should find another, or they should only be treating white people, and that's neither here nor there. So I would say that if a doctor or if somebody is going to practice medicine and you have no empathy and you don't have that thing of what is wrong. I remember one of my nieces, maybe she was pushed to be a doctor, but one time I was telling her something about my mother, and she had to ask me all these questions, and I was thinking, what is that? Then I remember, oh, you are a doctor, because all these questions, like what is wrong with this and what is wrong with the other, and I was thinking, you're just a young lady. What are you asking about? All shows for. Oh, and then I remembered that she's a doctor. So yes, you have to have that interest of what somebody is suffering from and how you can help alleviate their pain, whether it's a dog or a cat or a person. So I think that is one for the doctors and the nurses. Now, when I was young, after I had gone through the career vocation of being a nun, and I've put that one aside. Of course, after a year, you put that one aside. Then I picked teaching. After a year, I put that one aside, and then I latched on to medicine. And of course, I did not put that one aside. I only put it aside when I could not go to Form 5 and 6. I couldn't have the school fees to go to Form 5 and 6. So that one, hiyo ikapotelea tu hapo. But later on, when I was here and I was doing my survival job and I was a caregiver, and I realized I would have been a most awful doctor, miserable and impatient, because I was looking at the people and the kind of things that people need when you are sick, when you are old, particularly old people, when you are old and sick, the kind of care you need, the kind of patience you need. I realized that wouldn't have been me. Just stay with the ranges and the pipes and such other, kind of impersonal things. Just leave sick people alone. And that, for me, it was good that I realized that, not being already having done the 7 years of medicine. So yes, when you are in that situation, then you can see whether that was a good career for you a good profession for you. For me, I was able to see, and I know I would have made a miserable doctor. I would probably not have stayed there. I would be the one taking people's money in pharmacy. Yeah, okay. I hope that kind of answers the question. I have got a knack for business, so maybe I would have stepped out of medicine and go into business. So, but doctor, I would have made a terrible doctor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's quite insightful. I think, as you have said, empathy is the key word, because a sick person needs soothing words, need a listening person, someone who is patient, someone who can fit in their shoes so that they can understand each other and can feel the pain of that person or that patient. So it's very true. You cannot be a good doctor if you don't have that empathy. But if you're just there just for salary or money, then it is quite disastrous. Another thing I wanted us to discuss is what are the differences between the services that we have in public and private hospitals, public and private institutions, universities, high schools, primaries, academies. What is the comparison in their services, and why are they looming? Okay. How do we compare, and why do we have private institutions and private hospitals, yet we have public hospitals which are, as a result of government plan to according to the population, because every time we see hospital being built, it means there is a statistics that shows that we need one more hospital. But still, we have so many private hospitals and private institutions or schools. How do we compare their services? This might also answer whether teaching or being a doctor is a calling or is just for money. Let's start with the ex-pastor Stano.
I think here is where we can see there is no kind of calling. All those who are called, or those who have the calling are very few. Because when we compare the public school and the private schools, we find the private school are better in performing, and the teacher there are very passionate in teaching. But for public, we find the teacher are very redundant. Some they skip the job. But in private, because there is somehow enforcement, because the owner want to make a huge profit by making sure the students are performing well to attract more customers. That is where we find the teacher are able to teach with that passionate or with in hard work. But in public, they are somehow redundant. And that, to me, it means there is no kind of calling, but they are there because of their earning, and some because they have some pressure. The same case in the public hospital. We find the daughter, they have a private hospital while still working in the public hospital. You find those daughters are skipping some duty to go for their own premises, their own private, to work there because they are after money. And a lot of daughters are doing that, the same thing. And you find in the public, there is a lot of queue while the patients are there waiting for long. But the daughter, you can even, they are relaxing, taking team break or lunch break, and taking too long before they respond to the patient. But when you go to the private, they respond very fast because they are after money. So that is where you find that the calling, if there is a calling, because I am sure there is some who have that calling, is very few. But the majority is after daily brand or after is about the capitalization. Thank you.
Thank you, ex-Pastor Stano. Indeed, the services that we obtain from private is due to some enforcement from human resource. And that's, like I said some time back, the same people who are serving you there are the same people you find them in public. And you wonder why the difference. Yeah. Thank you so much, ex-Pastor Stano. Let's hear from Morioki, then Dorcas.
Thanks, Tony. Maybe I can give an example. In primary, I went to a private school. Then in high school, it was public. Now there's a big difference between the private school in primary and the public school in secondary. Even the teachers in the private school were scared to beat us because they're saying these are people of rich parents, so they can't beat you because they fear if they beat you, the parent could be a minister or someone. So they're scared to even punish a child in a private school. But in public schools, it's like don't care any. They know that they see you like just these are people who are ordinary. Yeah, so that's the difference. With private, it's more serious, more strict. In public, it's like somehow freer. They're more free in public schools. Thanks.
Thank you, Morioki. Let's hear from Dorcas.
Okay. What is the difference between services rendered in private versus public institutions? I don't know why every time I want to speak, I start coughing. Shetani ashindwe.
You're coughing again.
Ule ametumwa, they are on overdrive. The one who has cast a spell on me. I'll only cough when I'm about to speak. What the hell? Anyway, I'll keep a glass of water close by.
I'm gonna talent you. Yes, talent to make you cough. Yes, talent.
So before actually I answer the question the moderator has asked, I would also like to answer the one I asked, which is how do you tell that a doctor has a talent for medicine? Because I think it is very evident when somebody has a talent for teaching. I for one, consider myself to be a natural born teacher. I think when I was a child, they would always pick me to go and represent the group in front of the class if there was group work, or if we needed to do something to illustrate something at the front, I would always be picked. That was in primary and high school. Then when I was in campus, I remember that we would sit through the same class. right? We sit through the same class, we are taught the same concepts, but then after class, people would come to my room and ask me to explain what the teacher taught because it was so complicated. I told you guys I did for my bachelor's industrial chemistry, and a huge chunk of it was mathematical. So those was mathematical and also mechanical in nature. So it was very complex, and you really needed to pay attention. A lot of long equations covered, and sometimes the lecturer would speak and things just go over people's heads. So my classmates would come to my room and ask me to explain what the teacher had taught. I would explain it, and they're like, "Wow, I get it now, Dorcas. Aki, you have such a talent for teaching. You should consider the profession." And then I would tell them, "Oh, I should consider poverty," because we all know that teachers, no matter which level they're at, will struggle financially. So that is especially if they're in public institutions. So I told them, no, thank you. I sat on that talent until relatively recently when I am now a public speaking coach or communication trainer. So I teach grown-ups, but the setting is relatively different from how we imagine a conventional teacher. But I think it's very obvious. You can tell when somebody is a natural born teacher, even as a child. Whereas for medicine, it might not be very evident because medicine is a complex profession and you have to learn a lot in medical school. That's why it takes them 6 full years before they even touch a live human body. 6 years in university, that is if there's no strike or if there are no other external factors like the COVID pandemic. If there are strikes, you might end up taking even 8 years before you touch the first human body as an intern. So for medicine, it's a lot more complex. But I think in addition to what Ndeve said, you can tell that somebody has a knack, a talent for healing when they tend to gravitate towards those situations. So you might find that if they see like a frog, they want to dissect it and see what is inside. They're fascinated. They're not repulsed by blood. Yeah, I remember in high school, my roommate, who was the deputy head girl, I was the house captain. She was the deputy head girl, and prefects were given just one room, 2 people, while the rest were given, they were 10 per room. So my roommate used to love wounds. I remember I once got hurt while playing hockey, and she would look at it. She used to nurse it. She would check up on it continuously. Like I could see this is a talent. She's fascinated by this stuff. Whereas it was on my knee, but I didn't even want to look at it because it had gotten to a point where it was septic. So from that, I could tell Yvonne Degwa will one day become a doctor. And true to my prediction, she's now a neurosurgeon. She went to study medicine in Russia and then came back and did the bridging course or whatever they need to do. And she's now practicing in Moi, in Eldoret. I think, what hospital is that? Whatever hospital is there, that big hospital in that area in Eldoret. That's referral hospital. That's where she is. So you can tell. Sometimes you can tell even when somebody is a child that they have a passion for healing. Now, I've taken so much time answering that question. I'll try and minimize the amount of time I take when answering this one by the moderator. And maybe I'll just restrict it to the education sector. Should I go for medicine? Okay, because I gave the example of medicine in this other one. Let me go for education in this one. I think in public schools, teachers tend to be they tend to be demotivated. They don't go over and above the call of duty because they are busy thinking about how they're going to pay their bills. At the end of the day, a calling will not pay rent. You won't go and tell your landlord, hey, Do you know me? I followed my passion. Yeah, I followed my passion, and I'm teaching people. The landlord won't care. They'll just, at the end of the day, they just want their money. They want the rent. So I think by and large, it is a challenge to see people who are motivated when they can't fulfill basic needs. I take you guys back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that every human being has the lower level needs. They have to fulfill their lower level needs first. Shelter, food, clothing, medicine. Iso, you need those first. And then once those are fulfilled, you go to sense of belonging, and then you go to self-esteem, and then you go to self-actualization. So these things of calling, those ones come in at a higher level after you've already fulfilled the basic ones. But if you haven't fulfilled the basic ones, then the calling issue becomes irrelevant. So I think that shows the distinction between why teachers in public schools tend not to go over and above the call of duty. However, I would also like to bring out another counter argument to this, in that there are times when in private schools, the money bit can stifle you. It can undermine your talent, your calling, your passion, because of the powers that be. I'll give you the example of a client I am working with who is a teacher in a private institution, a private international school. And in that school, the parents are really controlling. They want you to treat their children like eggs. So you can't correct them, you can't do anything, you can't discipline them, because somehow the child will involve their parent and the parent will turn it against you. So you find that the teachers there feel frustrated by the status quo. They cannot truly be themselves. They're not allowed to teach because of this interference from parents or other external forces, since they have a lot of say in administration, owing to the fact that they pay a lot of money. So it can be detrimental to proper teaching, this money aspect, if the lines are not demarcated between what the parent's role is and what the teacher's role is. So yeah, that's what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas. And that's a very nice elaboration of the services in our private and public institutions. Let's hear from Maurice. Yes, Maurice.
Okay, I just wanted to elaborate something. So you see how do I put it? You see the word calling has some religious connotation, and the word gift as well. So just to clarify that when we talk about calling, we are not talking of someone, receiving the Damascus moment. We are talking of this. We are talking of this natural inclination where you feel like this is what you really like to do. Actually, calling would be, as best synonym for a calling would be more of a passion. While a gift is a synonym as well for talent. So it doesn't mean you're being given one. It's not one of the 7 or 8 gifts of the Holy Spirit. It's it's a talent, basically, as we define it. It's a special ability to do something that not so many people can do. Yeah, I'm trying to multitask, so I don't remember your question. What was your question?
Comparison of services in public and private, hospitals, institutions. But again, those who have spoken before have not yet contributed to this question again. Why do we have so much private institution looming? Yeah.
So you see, the question is, the whole topic is about whether it's a calling or a talent or however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Of course, so you have to realize two things. Number one, they are not mutually exclusive. So like a talent, or you can have a calling for something. You really were inclined to do something naturally. It doesn't mean that it should not earn you money. It should not negate your passion for money. Everybody want to live comfortable. Everybody want to live a comfortable life. So the best way you can do, and that's what the doctor said, the most lucky person is the one who finds passion and talent. Whatever his passion is or talented in is also what his profession is, because able now to be self-driven. So the fact that you should not assume that, oh, this person has a calling, therefore money should not be a factor. Everybody want to. I know people who know they are talented in football, they are talented in this area, but if that area doesn't seem to give them money, right now they're doing what makes money, irrespective of whether they like it or not. So yeah, that's a, number two. So of course, whether the doctors in public or private public hospitals that are called or not, it doesn't mean they don't have needs that they need to meet financially. And so you cannot use their quest. Nobody should use their quest for better salaries and better remuneration to negate the fact that they have a calling. Already what they do, irrespective of the NNE, it's a call. It's to an extent a huge sacrifice compared to how much they earn. Those who actually do the job and those who actually. But of course, why do we have private institution thriving? And especially from a public policy perspective, where there's what we call public goods. The things that there should be very little incentive for the private sector to act upon. Things like roads, provision of roads, things like education, things like healthcare. Those should be in most societies, even the ones that call themselves capitalists proper. Those are things that are left to the government. The private sector plays a complementary role. But in Kenya, we don't have we have a government that is captured. Yeah, that's what we talk of state capture. So you have a government that is captured in the sense by the private sector. So you find that people making decisions in public sector are not making them for the driving of public sector, but for the private sector. Also, we have a failed public sector system where we, especially speaking about healthcare. It's really sad. It's a sad story. It's a sad state of affairs. How they, but with all the money we have, with NHIF, with all the new one, the Ministry of Health, the money we spend in education and health and sector, those two should be one of the most thriving. But because there is profit in inefficiency, the worst thing you can ever do to the private sector in terms of health sector is to ever make the public sector work, because you'll be running them. And the same case in education is if you make education better. I've been to places in country where education is good. You don't see a private school thriving there unless it is a special one, like maybe for disabled people. Same case with with healthcare. So of course, the fact that the doctor you find at Kenyatta is private wing is also the doctor you're going to find at Nairobi Hospital, the one you're going to find at Aga Khan. Where do you think they make more money? They use the public sector for privilege and for access to these customers. It's like a marketing department of their business. But the real profit is in the private. So, and it's okay to be profit motivated, but I don't think it should come at the expense of people's health. There are many areas where people can make profit, but not. And it's a big problem, not just in Kenya. In US, they're talking about now. They talk about the big pharma. One of the issues that that lady Kamala, though I don't like her, but one of the issues that I sort of agree with her is that they need to regulate the prices of pharmaceuticals. Basic prescriptions, especially insulin, is costing 10 times in US than it costs in European Union. Because there's nothing you can do there, the market has been ring-fenced. So it's the same case here where there's so much profit to be made, not because they're doing a good job, but because of the inefficiency of, they have the same people profiteering from the private sector have induced and have initiated an inefficiency in the public sector that they are now milking from. So it's definitely a political issue, it's a public policy issue, and it's all about inefficiency. People should be not be making abnormal profits from, especially things like education, basic education, higher education you can debate, basic education, basic healthcare, basic things in life. I don't think those are things that people should not be making profit at the expense of the dignity of the mass. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maurice. Let's hear from El Maestro, then Debe.
Okay, so the difference of services in public and private institutions. For me, I can give one elaborate example. I've studied in two private in two institutions. No, okay. When I was still in primary or secondary school, I only studied in public schools. But now in my higher education, I first did my diploma in a public university, and then my degree in a private university. And what I can say, the services in those two institutions, the services by the lecturers were very different. When the first the public university I went to was Moi University, and you find that the lecturers they could show up for only 2 or 3 classes the whole semester, and you wait for your exam, 2 or 3 classes, that's it. Maybe those lecturers that are more motivated, maybe they can cover maybe more than 75% of the classes because they just want to be there to teach. But a lot of lecturers, they are just showing up for 2 or 3 classes for that unit, and you wait for your exam. You are not even prepared for exam, but then when the results come, you are shocked that you passed, and you even wonder how did you pass. So even after I got my diploma from my university, I felt that I'm half baked. But then in Mount Kenya University, there is no single lecturer who could even miss. Even maybe they can come late, or even if they come late, or if they miss, they have given you an assignment. They have given the class an assignment. So they've given they tell the class rep that he or she won't come, but this is what you should study. Even now, when you got your degree and you are proud of it, but when I was in that public institution called Moi University, I felt that I was half baked even after I graduated. So I think in public institutions, I don't know, it's because they are paid by the government, so the government does not even follow up on their activities in school. Maybe if it is disciplinary, maybe it's when they can follow up, but class attendance, the government does not follow up. Maybe it's because they are paid by the government. But in public institutions, in private, I mean, in the private institution, the people, the owners want want learners to have to see that there is value for the money they've paid. So they put pressure on the lecturers to ensure they've covered every lesson that they have been assigned. So I think That's the major difference that I've experienced between public and private. Yeah, I can say that for now, but I also have another example that I'll say later.
Thank you, Maestro. Let's hear from David.
Thank you. I always went to public school, but I'll say something about the public school when I went to school, when I first started going to school. The reason that a doctor in Aga Khan or a doctor in Nairobi Hospital would be more dedicated in time, on time, every time, and pay more attention to the patient. And the same thing, the reason a teacher or a lecturer in a private institution, like I think you also, some of those universities, private universities in Kenya, the reason they would be more dedicated has to do with the institution itself, the remuneration they get, and the supervision they are subjected to, and the culture of the whole place, and what there is to lose. You lose your job, you lose that good money that you've been getting. You don't want to do that. It is this extra income. You don't want to lose that. So I think there is that, the one of what it is that you have to lose. And the culture is about even the students of the private, even primary school. They are supervising you. They are watching. They will go home and say, "Oh, that teacher," and those parents, because they are the ones who hire you. They are the ones. That kid is going to fire you. The kid is going to have you fired because you came 5 minutes late or 2 minutes late, or you looked at them in a bad way. So the whole culture of a private enterprise is serious. There is no room for malingering or wastage of time. It is serious. It is not just you. Even your workmates are serious. You are going to be slacking with who? Everybody is serious. Your supervisor is serious. Everybody comes, bang, bang, boom, boom, boom. They are in class. They are teaching. When you are in the staff room, you are talking. You might slack down a little bit, but you're talking serious things. When the tea break is over, everybody is out and going about their work. So the whole culture is geared to producing results. If you go to the public sector, and unfortunately, something has gone wrong. No, people, it didn't used to be that way. I went to work. And I loved going to work every day. And everybody in that lab, it was a water lab in industrial area. I think it is still there. We loved to go there. People, when we are in touch, we still remember those good old days when work started at 8:30, 8:15 or 8:30, something like that. But we all came early to talk soccer because the place was full of, oh boy. It was full of the Abaluya. They always going to union. Who got beat, who lost. We had to have that conversation, whether you are from Mukambani or not, or where. We had to have that conversation. But as soon as the clock hit, everybody just, would you be sitting there alone? Everybody has gone to work because the time. I got a good beginning of how a workplace is supposed to be. So there was a time that we were serious. In fact, it was so serious that the person that was in charge of the pollution division, some chemist called Olo, he would He would never spare Wahindi. They identify the water, he's in court with them, and he loved it. He just loved to be, I don't know, not that he hated Wahindi, but he did not want them polluting the water. He was always in court with them, and he could not be bribed. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in court with them. So there was a time that things, even in the public sector, were working well. Even in the public schools, God, I went to a public primary school, public secondary school, and let me tell you, the first person in primary school that I knew had to be feared, even by my headmaster. We feared the headmaster, right? But he feared somebody else, the AEO. Now we were so silly, we did not know that the AEO is actually Assistant Education Officer, but the big guy is the EO, is the education officer. You could be fired, teachers could be fired on the spot if the AEO or the EO came and found something that they didn't like, because they would come in, they would go to the classes, they would go to the office, and everybody would be like, our teachers would be all shakers, because they're going to lose their job. They could lose their job that day. So that is effective supervision. You could get your supervisor coming to your desk, to your computer, to check if you're playing games or if you are working anytime, at any moment. So I think that what has sunk the public sector, and therefore people going to start private schools, is the fact that there's no effective supervision. I can be running my kiosk instead of being in class. Well, who is supposed to be supervising me? The kids are not even empowered enough. And that is the difference between the kids in public school and the kids in private school. They are empowered. Their fathers are rich. They have been hearing about empowerment ever since they were little, and they know what their rights are. My kids in the village, they do not know. They don't even know that the school is built with taxes. They think that the school is built by MPs' money. No, it's not built by MPs' money. It's built by their taxes. So they are not empowered. They are not informed. They do not know that they have a right to an education, because their parents have been paying taxes since the day they were born. So there is no empowerment. Their parents are not informed and empowered. The kids themselves are not informed and empowered. And let me tell you, the day that they will be informed and empowered, teachers will just go, oh, you have just to go home, go run your kiosk. Forget about teaching, go run your kiosk. That's it. Let people who want to teach, but you have to pay them well. You can't just tell them somebody teach and you don't pay them well. How they have to feed, to keep the body together. So all those things have to come together, and therefore, and then we will have a good public sector, and we will not necessarily need the private sector coming in and selling us the things that are ours. So that's what I'm saying. That you go to Aga Khan, and the doctor that is selling you his services, he's supposed to be selling services to everybody, not just to the rich in Aga Khan or in Nairobi Hospital. So I think there's the people have to be more informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam David. I can see Dorcas Swita. Hands is up.
Yes. After you clarified your question, I realized that I had not addressed it fully, so I wanted to top up. You are asking us, why is it there is an overabundance of private institutions in education and health, yet the same is not true in the public sector? And Ndebe has explained it so well. Those three components: money, culture, and supervision, are spot on. Some people do ill because they can get away with it. But then what initially pushed them to do it is the idea of no payment, there is no money where they are working in the public sector. Without necessarily referencing what the others have said, even what Maurice talked about, I think it is spot on when he was talking about governance in our country. What I can add here is I think there's just a failure of governance. There's a failure of governance in our country. Public institutions are not working. They're not doing what they are supposed to. And this is creating a gap in the market. So our professionals, either the medical professionals or the educational professionals, are attempting to fill it. However, because those services are basic, health and education are actually the key to well-being in a society. If you botch education and if you botch medicine, then your country will essentially fall apart. So because these services are being offered mostly by private entities, what that means is that the majority of Kenyans cannot access quality services from those sectors because they cannot afford. You go to Nairobi Hospital, just consultation, just him determining what is wrong with you, you've got to part with something like 2,000, 3,000 shillings. Which Kenyan will afford that when 40% of our youth are unemployed? Or you go to a private school. My niece was in a private school throughout her life. And in primary, there was a point we used to pay 92,000 shillings per what is it called? Per term, 92,000 shillings. But of course, the quality of services, the quality of teaching was top-notch. And this was only accessible because my brother is one of the lucky few people who have some money in their pocket. He's not even in the countries. He's working abroad. But for the most part, most Kenyans cannot afford to pay those hefty prices in private institutions. So that automatically removes them from accessing it. That person who is sick, maybe they have a condition like kidney failure. They have to go to their referral public hospital. When they go there, they find that it is only one specialist. I think they're called nephrologists or whatever a kidney specialist is called. So they find there's only one, and he's not even available all the days of the week. Maybe he comes in once or twice a week in that referral hospital. That means that there are so many people, either you go there at 5 in the morning, even when you go there at 5 in the morning, there are so many people who are waiting for that consultant, and then by 1 p.m., they leave and they never come back until the next week. So there is systemic failure in our health and educational fields. And it is manifested by those long waiting periods, by lack of resources. You find that there's no medicine in a public hospital. You're given a prescription and then you have to look for it elsewhere, or there's just no access to equipment or specialists in those public hospitals. And it also manifests in the mushrooming of private hospitals. But when they mushroom, it means they're just targeting the select few who have the money to afford those services. For the most part, for most Kenyans, they are sidelined. So if we want to fix this problem, we need to fix it from the root, which is governance. That is where the rub is. Now, as I drum this point home, I'd also like to call attention to what the Constitution has done, because the Constitution devolved the health function in 2010. it devolved the health function, meaning 90% of the county, 90% of medical services are run by the county governments. However, when it comes to funding, 65% of the monies allocated towards giving medical services goes to the Ministry of Health. It stays with the central government. So what that means automatically is that counties don't have enough money to run their hospitals. When they don't have enough money to run their hospitals, they will be stingy about paying their doctors. This is the reason why our interns are not, actually, it wasn't just our interns, it was everybody who went on strike just 2 months ago. We had the doctors, we had the medical officers, we had the nurses, we had everybody in that sector went on strike because the counties were not paying them. I know of a doctor who had not been paid for 3 months. He works in a referral hospital. So on paper, you are expected to earn at least a significant amount of money, but it's not coming through because the county says it's broke. And this is systemic owing to the idea of devolution of the health function. Maybe this is something our country needs to reconsider because it's been 14 years down the line since we started this experiment of devolving the medical function, and it's not working. I think such an important function should stay in central government. Maybe the other things can go to the counties, but this one is so crucial. It should be in the central government. That's why the striking doctors were being taken back and forth. They go to the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health tells them, oh, the function has been devolved. They go to the county. The county says, oh, they're the ones who have the money. They get 90% of the budget. Yeah. So that is one aspect. Another aspect, in terms of this systemic problem we have in the area of health, is what is the gimmicks and games that are played by the county governments. Because if you look at the recent strike, one of the things that prompted it was not posting medical interns. They had delayed in doing it, and interns had finished studying for 6 years. You see, with medicine, you do 6 years. I wish Luchaveleli was here. He would have explained this much better than me. You do 6 years in university, you deal with dead bodies, the cadavers, and then on your 7th year, you are taken to a hospital, and under supervision, you now practice as an intern. You're called a medical officer intern for 1 year. Then after 1 year, you get licensed to become a resident doctor. So they had not posted the interns. If you don't do an internship, you can never become a licensed doctor. So what the counties were doing is they would keep, they would avoid hiring interns such that the ones that had finished their internship in the previous year would stay on, and then they would tell them, you know what, you work for us, volunteer your time, and then when there's an opening, we will hire you. So the intern who is already qualified to become now a doctor continues volunteering in the hope that the county hospital will hire them, and the county hospital doesn't hire them because the county hospital has spurious intentions. It has ill intent. It wants to use their labor for free. They don't want to pay the doctors their due because they're dangling this carrot of a potential opportunity. So there are all these games that are being played, but all of it starts from the fact that they don't have enough money. But even the little money that they have, the county government is not doing what it's supposed to with that money. It's resorting to other gimmicks. So it's a small wonder that the moment somebody qualifies to become a practicing doctor, they'll just go to the private hospital. You at least there you will be paid when the pay date is due. At least there you will have the resources that you need, and they won't be taking you round and round in circles the way they do in the public sector. So I think that is another thing we need to be aware of. Our doctors are struggling, our interns are struggling, our doctors are struggling. We hear interns have to pay money in order to get an internship. They're bribing people. Others are also bribing people in order to get jobs in the public sector. So it is really nasty. It's just a whole messed up system. So overall, I think we need to fix our governance. Everything rises and falls on leadership if we want to make things right for our doctors. Thank you.
Dorcas, why would if it is a central government that's not giving money that is owed for the counties for health, why should we forget about the devolution? It is the central government that should give the money to the counties for health, right? Because health is devolved. Anyway.
Ndebe, you see, the central government is running only a small percentage, is running 10% of the health sector, while 90% is run by the county government. Yet, in terms of funding, they're getting 65%. So the funding is actually rightfully, like when they don't give it to the counties, they're like, it's ours, because that's how it has been allocated. So they're actually doing what they're supposed to in terms of keeping that high percentage, because that's how it's been stipulated. However, there are still moments where they're not sending that 35% that they should be sending of the budget that is for health. They're not sending that 35% to the counties. But I think because of this back and forth between central government and county government, because the central government wants to call the shots, I think let's just remove that burden from the county government. Let's give it to the central government, because it's the one that has the monies, and let them run the show. I think things were better off before devolution. I think they've gotten worse after devolution. In fact, if you listen to doctors, they tell you that sometimes just referring a patient from one hospital to another is a problem, because the counties will tell you, no, this one is not in our county, yet it's the closest hospital. I think it's just easier if the central government handles it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. But for me, the fear is that the central government has got the hand in the cookie jar, and you don't know where the cookie is going. But if it goes to the county, the people in the county can say, we've got our cookie. It is the governor that should make sure we get our medication. I do not trust the central government to have that cookie. I want that cookie to go to the county, to the county government, because I don't want somebody to be going campaigning with that money, with the money that is supposed to be going to the doctors or to education. It should go, if it is devolved, let the money follow the devolution. Not to say that, oh, maybe we should, no, not yet. Let the money follow devolution, because I think maybe the central government wants people to be frustrated and say that forget about giving the county the money. I'm just saying human nature is funny. All right, thank you.
Wow. Okay. To me, the matters to do with the health is very sensitive, and giving it to jokers like Akina Mwangaza and no, I think let health matters be handled centrally by central government. A very sensitive matter. And you see,
But in
doctors are
Makueni,
learned
what
people.
happened? Yeah, what happened in Makueni was they actually managed to put their money for health to some good use. So I think, well, uko na mtu wako. Why is mtu wako doing the right thing? Tuko na mtu wetu. Why is mtu wetu not doing the right thing? I'm just being sarcastic. Uko na mtu wako, uko na Mwangaza. You know, mi niko na whoever the other young man that is there. Why are they not doing the right thing? Hata unajua kwao, you know, unajua mamake. Why is he not doing the right thing?
Interesting. I can see Morris is back and your hand was up.
It was up from last time. I forgot to put it down.
Okay. Now, at this point, I would like it to be an open contribution. Passion or money making? I will start with me. I think teaching is not easy. Teaching is not just a walk in the park. If you have no passion in it, if you have no calling in it, you cannot survive in this field. The amount of money that we get or that we are paid is uncomparable to teaching or to services that we offer. Sometimes I compare, for example, when you go to a lawyer just to stamp and sign, not even the lawyer, it is the secretary who is going to do that. Within a second, 500 shillings is gone. So you can imagine a teacher who is serving for 2 hours non-stop. How much can you pay? A doctor who is going to spend the entire day, especially in public, serving people, how much would they be given for this service? So I think for a good doctor, for a good teacher, is more of passion, not about the income or not about the money that they're going to be paid. For example, for me, I don't think teaching is just giving marks or showing people how to calculate and all that. It's more about mentorship and nurturing, where you met young people with different challenges, with various needs. You address them as well as you teach them. You find, especially in my subject, some are almost giving up with the academics because of that one particular subject. Unless or until you mentor that person you nurture that person, you become patient with that person, then that person is no longer going to sustain. Again, the duration of the services that we offer is uncomparable to what we get in return. So it's a calling to me, I would say. Even when I was in school, there's that feeling that I want to teach at this level, and indeed I am there, and I've not yet attained full certification to be in that point, in that level. So I'd say yes, teaching is a calling, but there are those who have found themselves there because of the grades and then maybe the pressure from family, but they don't stay there for long. Some they end up dropping, some they end up living a very stressful life, and you could tell. Even all of us that we have gone through the school, the kind of different teachers we have met, there are those teachers you wouldn't want to meet them again because you feel that they have treated you unfairly. They were so harsh, they did not understand you, they did not want to listen to your needs. The same way, you go to a healthy sector, there's that doctor you find he or she serving entirely, and they meet different patients with different reactions, emotions, and all kind of behavior, but they are very calm. They attend all of them because they have studied psychology and they can be able to handle different patients with different behaviors. So this also make them make me feel that these are not just doctors, but they are more than that. So again, I think a good doctor is not about income, but it's about calling. A good teacher is not more about income, but about calling. Because what we earn is uncomparable to the services that we give. Yeah. So I open this floor for our closing remarks and contribution in an open way. Yes, Morioki.
Thank you. I spoke to a teacher and a nurse, in fact, just today. Then the teacher said it's a calling, but they strike because of like NHIF. They are promised NHIF. Then when they get sick, it doesn't come. So they use their own money. Yet they pay for NHIF. So that really pains them. That's why they strike. And also, they're taken very far. You're taken very far from your family. Like maybe you're in Nairobi, your family is in Nairobi, you're sent to Ukambani, to a very far place. That also gives them stress. And again, students, they're told you'll have 20 students. Then they get 50 students. They get double number of students to teach. So that's so difficult for them. Now they say now it's a calling, but those things over too many students, no NHIF, being taken to far places will make them strike. And also, I spoke to a nurse also. He said that it was a calling. Then why? Because she helps the sick. She learns about diseases. She knows how to deal with diseases. Like she has a knowledge of diseases. And she gets skills in life. She can know how to talk to people because she meets different people. Then also she helps the less fortunate people. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's a calling, but at times circumstances will make them strike because they need money they need food. So if it's a calling still and there's no money, they'll strike. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Morioki. Let's hear from Dorcas.
I think Elmaisro's hand was up before mine, but now he has lowered. Elmaisro, have you changed your mind? Okay, perhaps he's not able to. Okay. There's so much to say. And because we're dealing with two professions, I think I'd talk for too long if I try to address both, because they both have very unique circumstances. Let me, for this contribution, restrict myself to education, to teachers, and then maybe if I get another chance, but I think because we are giving our closing remarks, I will take my points home with me. By and large, if you asked me what matters more, is it the calling or is it the source of income? I would have to say that both matter, because we don't pay rent with calling. We pay rent with money. So everybody must fulfill their basic needs first before we start considering other aspects of the job. Now, the calling bit will come into play when we are considering other components of the job that stretch you to the limit. So before I get into those aspects, the environmental features of education or being a teacher, let me talk about the importance of having adequate pay when we are teaching. I believe the average maybe high school teacher earns 37,000 shillings. I was listening to a vlogger, a YouTuber, who was talking about it. And she said there are so many deductions, so many things you use the money for. By the time you get the final pay slip, it is such a small amount, you even wonder what you're going to do with that salary. So for this reason, you find that many teachers actually, it has been studied statistically, especially here in Kenya, but even around the world, it has been found that teachers tend to be the job group that gets the most number of loans, like payday loans. They live on loans because their pay is not enough. So you remember that discussion we had about debt? If you are on a debt treadmill, you find that you are borrowing in order to repay the previous debt. You don't even have enough to meet your daily needs. So that's the situation in which most of our teachers find themselves. How can you live comfortably? How can you take care of yourself and your family? That's actually the most disturbing thing, that most teachers are married, and if they are the sole breadwinner in the home, then it is a recipe for disaster. You really cannot take care of your family and your needs based on the kind of salaries they pay our teachers, especially within the public sector. So I cannot reiterate it enough. We also have the problem of, what is it called? Risk allowance. Risk allowance. I think Morioki brought it up a bit, that teacher he spoke to talked about being sent to work in risky areas where there are absolutely no resources and no social amenities. The lifestyle there is just below par. So if you have to send teachers to such places, you've got to give them risk allowance. Unfortunately, this is not forthcoming for most of our teachers. So they are putting their lives in danger when they go to those terror-prone areas or bandit-prone areas, and yet we are not compensating them for it. As I said, you first have to fulfill one's basic needs before you go to other higher level needs. So it's paramount. We need to fix it. Our teachers are the ones that are raising the next generation. All Kenyans must pass through, all professional Kenyans must pass through a teacher. So let's give them their due. Now, once we have fulfilled that need of income, once we pay our teachers adequately, at least we'll have dealt with one aspect of their needs. But then there are other environmental aspects of the job that perhaps will not be solved. They cannot be solved by money. This is where the calling comes in, because it gives you the stamina to withstand those difficulties. Teaching is not easy. Teaching is very complex. First of all, there's the problem of excessive workload, especially if you go to a public school where the teacher to student ratio is disproportionate. So you find that if it is during the exam period, you have, 400 papers to mark, and you are not just teaching one subject or one class, you are teaching several. Of course, it can become overwhelming for that teacher, and they become burnt out. Not just during the exam period, they also have to deal with marking guides, lesson plans. They have to organize other extracurricular activities. It's just very draining. In fact, this issue of excessive workload has been responsible for the Great Resignation, partly responsible for the Great Resignation in the States. The States is dealing with empty classrooms, as in empty in terms of teachers. They don't have teachers in the United States. Many of them are quitting because they're overwhelmed. It's just too much work to do. So even if it is a calling, even if you're paid well, you will not be able to withstand such high workload when you don't love the job. So if you love it, at least that will help you. It will help you go through it. For some people, it's not enough. They still quit. Even if they love teaching, it's not enough. So that's one aspect, the excessive workload and the burnout. Then there's also the issue of parental interference. We keep hearing especially in the West, in Europe and in the States, do not indoctrinate our children. Yeah, they are very sensitive. In the States, they're sensitive about critical race theory and about they're saying that people should not change how history is taught because they want to make people like George Washington heroes when they may be engaged in acts of genocide against the native population. So they don't want their children to be taught that. They don't want things to do with the LGBTQ community. So they're calling teachers indoctrination agents. And we also have a lot of interference from lobbying bodies. So there's that problem. Here in Kenya, we see it mostly with the private sector, where a parent will come and say, oh, this teacher is not doing enough, or they did this and this to my child came and reported it to me. So that parental interference cannot make up for the money that you're getting, because it's a stressful factor. There's also the issue of student indiscipline, misbehavior, especially when there are restrictions on how far you can go in disciplining children. If students, you guys remember recently we had the problem of the banning of schools, that was going around. That's something teachers have to deal with, and no amount of money is going to make up for that phenomenon, they have to use creative methods in order to alleviate that problem, that kind of indiscipline in schools. We also have the problem of political interference and lack of training. That's the last point. No, second last point. Political interference and inadequate training. Here in Kenya, the problem has been we keep changing the education sector. It's like every government that comes in wants to show how it has mastered the secret to churning out great professionals from our education system. So we had it was the 7-6-2-3 system, and then we had the 8-4-4 system, and now we have the CBC system. So with this CBC system, you're finding that many teachers are inadequately trained for it. That's why we have a gap. We don't have JSS teachers at the moment, since they have not been trained for it, and the government has not set aside enough resources for making this transition. So in that regard, we might have to look beyond this dichotomy of calling versus income. There are external factors that are coming into play. Last point I wanted to make here is on the attitude that society has towards teaching. So as I said, I'm just going to concentrate on teaching for now, because my answer would be too long if I talked about medicine. So society has a negative attitude towards teachers. We look down on them despite the fact that we need them in order to raise our children, in order to take our children to the next level, not raise them per se. The parent should always raise their child, but to take them to the next level. So despite how crucial teachers are, we look down on them, and that translates into how we pay them or how we accord them certain dignities. So that's always a challenge that you will face if you decide to pick that profession, whether or not it is a calling, whether or not they pay you well, that is of no consequence if society itself looks down on the profession of teaching. It is possible to change your attitude. This is the last thing I'm saying. I know I've spoken for long. It's possible to change your attitude towards teaching because we look to Scandinavian countries. Those Scandinavian countries, I think it is Finland that has consistently topped the charts when it comes to the best schools in the world. Their teachers are held in the highest esteem. You have to jump through loops in order to become a teacher in Finland. They are highly enumerated, highly regarded, and it is a profession to aspire to. So it's possible to transform it. I think Kenyans need to rethink their attitude towards teaching. But for now, whether it is a calling or whether it is a source of income is of no consequence if society looks down on you as a teacher. Thank you.
My main Zoom meeting is an issue, so I'm going to continue my CPH. Yes, El Maestro, I think you raised your hand earlier than the rest.
But I lowered it because I had gone to a small office, so I thought maybe I could. Okay, but
It's
now
okay.
So I have several things to say about teaching. So, okay, I had first a question. Do you guys think of course, we know there are schools of different levels. You cannot compare a school like Alliance High School to a school that is just here in our suburbs, like maybe our Garrison Secondary School. Of course, you cannot compare it to Alliance. But do you guys think? Do you think which school is harder to teach? Is it harder to teach in Alliance High School than a national school or a county school like this Kawa Garrison Secondary School? Tony, maybe started. Tony, do you think which one is harder to teach in? Is it in Alliance or in Mangu, those big schools, or these small schools?
Okay, according to me,
Yeah.
I think teaching a big school is
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
when it comes to content delivery. Because
Yes.
these kids are very ready and
Yeah.
motivated.
Yeah.
I teach in University of Nairobi. I also teach in some colleges, and I can tell you, I really enjoy teaching there because those
Yeah.
people are very sharp, and you don't even have to explain a concept twice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you've said everything now. Let
Yes.
me tell you guys, if you hear someone teaches in Alliance High School and someone teaches in this just a county school, you should give more respect this person who teaches in this county school than Alliance High School. Teaching there is easy. I've talked to a teacher who has been teaching for 30 years. She was telling me she was teaching in Mangu High School, but then she left and came here she came closer to a school to here Garrison because her family, her husband relocated to here in Githurai, so she had to find a school that is closer. She was telling me she doesn't even know why she also transferred from Mangu to this, because Mangu teaching those kids, it was easy because the kids were so motivated. She did very little. But now in this school that she's teaching now, hey, it's hectic. She's teaching wanafunzi hawaelewi. She repeats again. She has to go there on Saturday and repeat some things because it's hectic when you are teaching students that are average or that are not so good academically. It is hard. It is really hard. So one thing, someone who teaches in Alliance and someone who teaches in this small county school, I think this one who teaches in a county school has a bigger calling than someone who teaches in Alliance, because hey, teaching in Alliance is easy, but teaching these small schools, it's difficult. So I don't know if teaching is a calling. Okay, I cannot. Okay, about teaching being a calling, I don't really know. There are some examples that can show you that it is a calling, others that can show you that it's not a calling, like the constant strikes by teachers shows you that it's not a calling. But when I was in high school, in our form 3, we are introduced to there's a teacher who came to who joined this school when we were in form 3. She was a teacher of maths and chemistry, but now our class she was teaching chemistry. And I'm telling you, this teacher, she was, until now I remember her because she was so professional. And the way she was teaching us chemistry, it changed our whole perspective about chemistry. The way she was teaching us is like, but this thing is just, it is this easy. Like we had spent the form 1s and form 2s seeing that chemistry is such a difficult subject. But when this teacher came, she was, you could tell yourself that she was really born to be a teacher. But then after teaching us for 2 terms, we are so demotivated. We are so frustrated when we heard that she had left to another school, because we had started loving chemistry more than even any other subject. Because this teacher, she was teaching us in a way that it made chemistry look easy. But then after that side, we have bought another teacher that was average. Is just now you, if you will continue loving chemistry or not. But then after high school, I met this same teacher now. I bumped into her, and I asked her, "Hey, madam, we missed you. Where did you go?" Hey, I thought she had gone to another school. Kumbe she went to another. She got another job that is not a teaching because of what? Because of money. She was employed. I don't know she told me in an NGO, rich company, but that it was paying her like double the money she was getting while being a teacher. So even if it is a calling or not, money comes first, because you could see that this teacher, she was really born to be a teacher, but then money came and she left the teaching profession for another job. So I don't know whether it's a calling or not. It depends. And also, one more thing I can say about teaching, being a teacher. The hardest thing about teaching is, if you guys don't know, the hardest thing about teaching is the marking of exams and marking of these books. You've given your students, like if you've given your students some exercise to a test to do, then you starting to mark them. That is the hardest thing about being a teacher, because and also marking the exam papers, because I've been in, when I was here teaching this garrison, I was making money from other teachers because they they had a burden of marking all these papers, but me, I just telling them, give me 1,000, I'll mark for you this one. Give me 1,000, yes, I'll mark for you. Yeah. So that is the other thing about being a teacher. It's not going to class to teach, no, but marking is the hardest thing about teaching. It's not even going to delivering content. So if you don't like marking, you cannot be a teacher. And also being a teacher, you know, there's something also, Dorcas, you've said that that made me also think again. You know, when I joined Mount Kenya University, the girls that I was the ladies that were in my class, almost all of them, not all of them, but almost all of them, they were ladies who had a child or children, or they are married. I was like, hey, which course did I choose? I was like the only person there in that class who was single. All other, even the men, some other men, there were men who had wives and they have children. I was like the only bachelor in that class. I was wondering, hey, Kwani, which course Kwani, was I really born to be a teacher? That point you said, Dorcas, about most teachers being married, it is actually true, because in that class in Mount Kenya University in Nairobi campus, almost all ladies, they had children, child or children, and they are married. The same to the men. So I don't know. I don't know what if I was really, even me, I was really born to be a teacher or not. Okay, that's my 2 cents for now.
Oh, thank you so much, Elmaestro. Actually, remind me the most hardest part of this life. I enjoy teaching. I really enjoy teaching.
Yeah.
But the most hardest part of this life is marking. Oh my gosh, I wish I have someone who can be marking for me. That only. Yeah, that one even make me sometimes have issues with the heads of department.
Yeah.
But when it comes to class attendance, I really attend my classes, whether I am supervised or not, because I think it is in me. That is the
Yeah,
hardest
yeah.
part. So I can see, Morris, your hand was high before Muriuki and David. Let's hear from you, Morris.
I've even forgotten what I was about to say. Yeah, but just to emphasize, the way the topic was framed, that is it a calling or a source of income? I think it should be both. They're not mutually exclusive. You can, in fact, the most ideal things, one of the takeaways should be the most ideal source of your income should be your calling or your talent. You only deviate from that if things don't work out for the life mismatch. Yeah, but ideally that should be a source of income. So, of course, there are people who take advantages of the situation. But I don't know. It's a calling. Let me just say, it's like being a nurse, like in a public hospital. Whether you're paid $1 million or whether you're paid 10,000, I don't think there's any amount of that money that would motivate someone like me to be a nurse. Whether it's $1 million, whether it's 10 million, no matter how much you pay me, I will never be a nurse. I will never be a doctor. I would never. Okay, you'll have to pay me a lot of money to teach, like a lot, like exorbitant a lot, and maybe teach 2 or 3 people. I'm not very good at like teaching. Teaching is structured, and you have to deal with people. I normally assume people should know. Like if I say something, people should get the concept and move on. Now I have to sit down and clarify, and I can't do teaching. That one I'm also out. So yeah, most people in those professions, but for nurses, it's difficult. Like there was a time when I came from Mauritius and I didn't have a job for some time. So some people wanted me to go and do my nursing in Australia, and these people, I said I can't. Even if no matter how much they motivate me, I can't. Even if they come for me in a private chopper and a private jet, I can't. So yeah, you have to have some calling, but it's best to motivate people so that the fact that people have already identified their calling or their talents, the best we can do is to nurture them, and of course nurturing them involves money. So let's put money in teaching, let's put money in nursing, in all these fields. But yeah, let's not act as the 2 of them are mutually exclusive. They should be complementary from how I think. Having a calling and having an income out of it, that's complementary. The worst actually is something we should discourage. But someone like me is getting paid so much money so that I can move into nursing. And it's something I know I will not do. But I can do nothing in public hospital because I never need to show up. I can just go and say to the people at the gate, and and that's the problem. That's why you need both calling and the money, the financial incentive there. Yeah. But thanks a lot, Anthony.
Thank you, Morris. It's good to speak your heart. Let's hear from Muriuki.
Yeah, something people don't understand is slightly introverted. Yeah.
Sorry?
I'm saying something people don't understand about me is sometimes I'm a bit introverted. Slightly. So like I like if it's working or like I like to do things on my own. No. Like I don't like this community work at class. I want give us our job, give me my job, I do give everyone their job. So yeah, that's how life is.
I think if you give me 1 week without speaking to people, I'll start talking to myself.
Yeah, live my life.
Yes, Morioki.
Thanks, Tony. But I concur with Maurice. Even for me, I can't be a doctor or a nurse. I can't deal with sick patients. So I concur with Maurice. So I want to tell El Maestro about a true story. There's a lady called Mava Collins. She's an African American, and one called Mrs. G. They were teachers who went to the ghetto, to slums to teach. Those kids were unteachable. They were violent, slow. She taught them, and they succeeded. They became very successful people. In fact, this Mava Collins, she got a job from the president in the government. She refused. She says, "I want to teach." So she taught in the ghetto until she passed away. And all the kids she taught became very successful later on in life. Thanks.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, David.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yes. So as everybody's saying that a calling is you're not just going there for the money, you're going for something bigger than yourself. So for example, if somebody offers you a job, you will say, no, I'm working for the ghetto, I'm teaching. You have seen something in the ghetto that is bigger than say working for a lot of money for an NGO or working for the government as a cabinet secretary. So you have seen something that rhymes with your desires, and that is something bigger. And that is why teaching used to be, or maybe medicine also, used to be viewed as a calling, because a teacher could be working from her home. She would have her garden or whatever, producing her own food. So even if her pay was not much, she could still survive. So it was a calling because her needs was satisfied, and her pay, even if her pay or his pay was not much, they could continue with their own calling and still be fed and well dressed, well clothed, and have a roof over their head. So now today, if you take a teacher to a town, to a city, they cannot eat from their garden. They have to rent a house. They have to have transportation to school. So it really stops being a calling, because they really do have to work for a living. So I think those are the things that change calling to being a career and a serious way to make a living. Otherwise, you will not be able to continue with your calling if that is what one is considering it. So if somebody is working in a town, definitely they have to be paid. A teacher will have to be paid well. Now, doctors always had to be paid well because they are like pastors. They do a very big job. We have to pay them well, because we can't do what they do for us. They come between us and death. So we pay them well. We always pay them well. But I have a question before we conclude this. Do you have confidence in your doctor? I mean, because we have whatever questions or whatever Google reviews that your doctor gets. My doctor has got very interesting Google reviews. So I wonder, do you have confidence in your doctor? Do you think he or she passed her own test? She did not get university exams from University of River Road or some things like that. He or she passed her own anatomy 101 and any other anatomy courses. Do you have confidence? It's just a question. I like I'm telling you, my doctor is, from his name, and even from the way he speaks English, he probably originally is somewhere from Eastern Europe. I'm sure in Kenya I've seen better doctors, but in Canada we have a problem of doctors. So it's not like I can tell him, hey, bye-bye, Mr. Eastern Europe. I'm going to go find another doctor. I'm not going to be able to find another doctor. So, but I'm just asking, he's okay. He has got good manners. He listens. He has a good listening ear, but that's just about it. I have to kind of force him to do things. I guess that's how we do. Maybe Juliana will tell you that that's how we do things here. We force our doctors to. If the tests can be done, we kind of ask them ourselves. You kind of do your own due diligence and you tell the doctor, hey, shouldn't I be taking vitamin D? Like in winter, I need to be taking vitamin D. I had to tell my doctor and he said, yeah, you can. I'm like, you never even suggested it. But anyway, so I'm asking, do you have confidence in any doctor that you consult, maybe not necessarily just your doctor, but in any doctor that you consult? Here, of course, we do have some amount of private doctors, particularly eye doctors and things like that. And of course, when you consult them, you go to consult them because your doctor, Canadian paid doctor, sent you there. So they said, go, I'll send you to a consultant. You do this and this and this, and that consultant can sometimes maybe even do some operations and things like those, and they are private. So they can tell you that, okay, if you do this operation in the hospital, in Canadian hospital, it will cost you nothing, but you'll only get basic things. The operation is, basic things. If it's eye operation, you'll just get a basic lens or things. So everything is basic. It's not, even if you're not looking for a Cadillac or a high-end kind of service, you'll just getting bicycle or that kind of thing in the government. So, and if you go to the private, then you're paying the big dollars. And of course, the consultant that you are sent to will be hoping that you will settle to have the operation at their hospital, instead of having them operate you at the Canadian hospital, and then the Canadian government, or rather the Ontario government, health is devolved here, just like Kenya, health is devolved. So if I go to a hospital, then I'm going to be using an Ontario card, and that doctor, even if he is private, if he is going to operate me at the hospital, he will be paid by the Ontario government, even if he's a private doctor, but he's coming to the theater to operate on me in a theater that is public paid, and we will pay him as OHIP, or Ontario Health Insurance Plan. Yeah, so just a question. I would like to hear your opinion on what you think, how confident you are about that your doctor actually passed their own test. Thank you.
How confident are we to answer our own doctors? Very nice question.
Knowing what you know. And I think also in Europe, they probably might have, in Eastern Europe particularly, they might have the same problem that we have in Kenya, where people can, can cheat through the system. I just read a review long ago. I read a review of my own doctor, because you can go to Google and read, it's not even Google, it is there's a service here that how is your doctor doing? So you go to that site and read what other patients are saying. And then, and somebody just said that, oh, that one, He probably just came here and cheated that he's a doctor from Eastern Europe and learned. It is right there. It is, and I'm sure that doctor even himself, he has read it, and he has just continued practicing, and he learns as he goes along. It is right there. And I'm sure he knows that review is there, and he doesn't get very, very good good reviews. But well, what can we do? We don't have doctors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam David. And you are scaring me because now you are making me also think about the buses that I use. I just go and sit behind there. Sometimes I sleep, having confidence in the driver that I don't know. Similarly to the doctors, you go there, you surrender your body to them, they inject you with medicine that you don't know, with the drugs that you can't even explain. But anyway, you believe you will survive, trust them, and try like public hospitals, because I might queue, I might take long, but I know these people, before they get the job, they must have gone through many vettings. It's not easy to get a job as a doctor actually in public hospital. It's not easy. But private, you might find even a chemistry teacher there in the name of doctor, or a biology teacher there. Very scary. So to me, my confidence is through public portal. That's why I prefer going for a public hospital and take more time queuing there, provided I meet the right person. That's according to me. Maybe according to others might have different opinion.
Somewhere in the Rift Valley, somewhere in Kenya, I know it is in Kenya, we had a doctor, we had a policeman, but it is the doctor that surprised me the most. He was not a doctor, but he was hired. He was practicing. I don't know if he was operating, but he was high up there. Maybe he's still a doctor, but it was publicly. It was finally he got caught, and it was and knowing what we know, he probably might have been just transferred to another place, and he might still be practicing.
All right. Let's hear from Dorcas.
Okay. I will use enumeration of my points in order to keep track. So the first point I want to make is that when it comes to medicine, when it comes to doctors, the same principle holds. Money is still important because you don't pay rent with a calling. Money is still important. I cannot stress enough how our doctors are being undervalued, and many of them are in debt. In student debt, it is so expensive to become a doctor in our country, Kenya. You find that on average, after going through it's called medical school, yeah, medical school, our students accumulate HELB loans worth 3.5 million. That's what has been found. So imagine they owe HELB 3.5 million, and then they go to a public hospital, and the salary is, I don't know, a meager 40K. How are they ever going to recover from that? So we have to pay our doctors their due. Number one. Point number two is the importance of a calling as well. Whatever Maurice was saying, that there are some things, Aki, you cannot do them. if you don't have a calling. Number two is the idea of work-life balance. So in many hospitals, especially the public ones, there's a very disproportionate ratio of doctors to patients. Ideally, it's supposed to be the hundreds, that for every one doctor, they attend to about some hundreds of patients. But in certain cases, it's up to the number 50,000. One doctor for every 50,000 patients in that area, that geographical area. So in those cases, doctors are given too much work to do. Like you're always on call. Saturdays, Sunday, holidays, at night, it is crazy. And especially if you are a resident doctor or an intern, if you're not a consultant yet, if you're a consultant, where you're the guy on top, and those consultants are actually never seen. In public hospitals, it's so hard to find these consultants. The people that do the donkey work are interns and resident doctors. So if you are one of these others, you've not gotten to the level of a consultant, and by there to become a consultant is so expensive. It's so expensive. Many might not be able to afford, given the fact that they still owe 3.5 million to health. So they have to deal with that animal first before jumping into the other loop. So you find that given that fact that you're working in such a busy, understaffed environment, your life becomes all about work. You don't have a social life. You don't have anything of the sort. Work-life balance is a mirage. Your family members forget about you because you never attend their weddings, their funerals, or anything of the sort. It's just work, work, work. So unless you have a calling, you cannot manage. Number three is the challenge of getting trained and doing work as a doctor. It's very traumatizing. It's not for your average Joe. This is something so tough. Just to be an intern, those guys are subjected to rigorous training regimens. Actually, a doctor intern is proof that the human body can operate with very few hours of sleep. Interns are always up and about. At night shift, day shift. Sometimes they do 48 hours. I wish Eugene Luchaveleli was here. He would testify. Sometimes they can do 48-hour shifts. There was one who even did 96-hour shift. It's like you're a zombie. It's no joke for the intern doctors. And then for the actual doctors themselves, there's the traumatizing aspect is in terms of the cases itself. Somebody comes to you and they've been hacked. Maybe it was the Gen Z protest. I was once told by an individual that works for, that is a first responder, that during the Gen Z protests, the looting that happened when they raided Parliament, now the looting in shops, there was somebody who had an axe. They went and cut off the hand of another person who was trying to steal a fridge because they wanted the fridge. They cut off that hand. And he watched this first responder. The first responder, of course, handed over the person who was hacked to a doctor. Now the doctor is the one that is dealing with this trauma. There are people who have some severe forms of cancer. They have tumors the size of their whole head. It's so scary. Like you're dealing with this stuff all the time. It takes a toll on you. It affects your mental health. It's been established that 30% of all doctors worldwide they battle depression, and 10% of them have suicidal ideation. So before somebody considers becoming a doctor, they have to think of those traumatic experiences, and they are daily. Sometimes some of them actually resort to some severe coping mechanisms like drinking or taking drugs. They have access to drugs, hard drugs, because It's their profession. So this is such a tough job. I honestly just respect the people that go for it. That was the third thing I wanted to say. The fourth thing is the problem of resources. Often you find that, especially in public hospitals, you don't have the resources required to perform a certain medical procedure. So a patient comes to you, they're in dire consequences, it's an emergency, and you can't do anything because you don't have the equipment. So you have to refer them to a hospital that has it. But if you are in the mashinani, deep in the counties there might not be enough time to transport that patient to the hospital that has the resources, and they die in your hands. Actually, that is very common. Loss of life and complications. You find that there are some cases that are so serious, they come to you and there's little you can do. In Kiswahili, we say, sikio la kufa halisikii dawa. So people bring you a case that is just dying. This one, there's nothing you can do about it. They're just going to die. And you watch them lose their life. Sometimes the family doesn't accept that reality and they turn it around on you and they start accusing you, the doctor, of causing the kid's death. Yet it was inevitable. So you have to play God sometimes, and that is an impossible task for a mere mortal. Only a calling can allow you to be able to navigate that field. It's so unenviable for such people. Fifth thing is, then that's the second last point. I still, despite all those challenges, I still think that being a doctor is one of the most respectable, one of the most honorable professions in the world, because they actually make a significant impact. You know, it's real and it's felt directly. Like they're so useful. You know, there are people, the jobs you do, you ask yourself, really, is this a matter of life and death? Somebody who maybe they look at books, not to insult Maurice, or figures. You know, how significant is such a job. But with a doctor, it's a matter of life and death. Like you are able to cause, you're able to resolve pain. You're able to give relief to someone who was in dire straits. I think that is so noble and so useful. We really need to appreciate our medics. I'm a friend to Eugene Luchaveleli here. And I know I have used him so badly. Sometimes I ask him for his view, his opinion on a condition I have, a pain maybe I'm feeling. And like he gives me such a thorough breakdown. And I'm like, wow, I should really pay him for this. But because he's my friend, inaendanga tu hivyo, I shouldn't do that in the future. At least when I have something, I try to give him. So it's a useful profession. Final point is my answer to Deve's question. So Deve is asking us, do you have confidence in your doctor? And my answer is no. I don't have confidence in my doctor because my doctor, and in fact, I don't even have one. I keep changing. Like, okay, I go to the same hospital. I go to St. Mary's Mission Hospital in Langata, but the doctors there that I meet are always different. And each one of them, I don't have confidence in them. Why do I say so? The last time, you remember last year, I told you guys I had to be admitted in hospital. I was sick and I had several complications. So the thing is, I found that most of those doctors would take you through unnecessary tests or procedures or treatments. Because we tried one treatment, it didn't work the first time. I went back, they repeated the same treatment. They gave me the same medication. It didn't work again. Then I went back the third time. So the third time, it was actually another medical specialist that suggested to me a recommendation, like a different medical procedure that I can explore instead of the medication they were giving me. He's like, go for this procedure, don't go for the same medication. So thanks to that technician, I was able to suggest that to the doctor, and the doctor was like, okay, we can try it, but that one is going to cost us, it's going to cost you 30,000, and that's minus bed charges. I was like, guy, after I've already spent so much money on this other procedure that has not worked, why didn't he tell me this solution in the first place? You see? So I think they put money first. Maybe that is a problem of the private institutions. They prioritize money, and they keep asking you to do these unnecessary tests or procedures so that they can milk more money from you instead of prioritizing your health, instead of looking for the most optimal outcome. And I also see it from how they treated my niece, because my niece had joint pain. She had a lot of joint pain, knee problems, back problems. And Aki, we spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. They took us through all the tests, blood tests, stool test, mini scans, went and saw the orthopedic doctor. We did so many. And do you know they didn't find anything? After spending all that money, they didn't find anything. My niece went back to school with nothing more than painkillers. Then when she was in school, she discovered what the problem was, because her colleagues also had the same symptoms. It was a deficiency of calcium. And those doctors couldn't establish such a basic thing in her. Yet her colleagues, these doctors, were able to find it. So you see, I don't trust our doctors. They prioritize money. They've been told by the institutions, subject your patients to as many tests as possible. And in the end, we are the ones who suffer because we don't get the outcomes we deserve. Thank you. Thank you so much for the discussion. That's the last I have to say on this debate. Thank you. Anthony, you are muted. You need to unmute the Oppo CPH for the audio.
Now I'm back to computer.
Oh, okay. We can hear you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dorcas. That was very elaborate and very great thing to listen. I can see Morioki and Deve and Sarhab. Let's start with Morioki.
Thanks,
A man
John.
of few words.
Yeah. According to what Doc has just said, I think Doc has just proved it's a calling. The way Doc has spoken, it proves it's a calling, unique calling. Then Deve, like for psychologists and psychiatrists, so this one, it's hard to trust them because a psychiatrist can't know what's in your brain. So you tell him this, you tell him that, but he doesn't know exactly what's in your head. So psychiatrists, psychologists, it's hard to trust them because they don't know what's in your head. So thanks.
Awesome. Let's hear from Deve.
Yes. Yeah, for me, I of course, I was also going from the side of that they.
Madam Deve, I don't know what you did the other time.
Yes.
You are very okay, but now.
I can't be heard. No? What's going on?
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now you are clear. Again, you are lost.
I'm earphone. I'm lost. Hello.
There is an interference. I don't know what is it.
People are calling Trey. Calling
That's,
Trey. So are calling.
We really want to hear what you are saying.
I was only going to say that there is an audience member called Bella. That's very strange. So I would
Maybe
like to hear
Anthony, try and
Yes.
mute and
Like-
see if we'll reduce the static.
Yes, please. All right. Have you muted Anthony? Yes. There's a member called Cambella in the audience. I would just like to hear, I think it will be him, and I will explain after why I would like to hear them. Hello, Cambella. The reason I wanted to hear them is that the name Cambella is my father's name. No, officially, is, you know, his name, but the Kamba people used to have another name, the name you give your parents, and then you have another name at your teenage, as well. I teenager, there is another name. That was my first name, and I'm just thinking that could be a member, it has to be a member of my family. So that's why I wanted to hear him. I think it's a him, and he's really saying something. But anyway, maybe it's another umbrella. So okay, hi.
Okay. I can see JW is in our midst and she has not uttered even a word. We'd like to give you opportunity to say something. Hello, Jay. Okay, she might not be in the position to talk. I would like to hand over the meeting to the host, Dr. Soita, so that she can take over from now.
Wow,
And
thank you.
before I give you, I really want to thank you, all of you, for your patience. As I said, I am a mathematician. I'm not a public speaker. So this is my best trial. I wish you the best. Good morning.
Yes, your best trial was actually more than sufficient. Thank you so much, Anthony, for that brilliant session. It was quite eye-opening. There were so many angles that came out which were unexpected. For instance, the struggle that teachers have with marking. That is something new. I have learned today, and also I have learned that Canadian doctors are in short supply. So some of the residents there have to contend with suboptimal professionals. I didn't know that. How unfortunate. I thought it's just a third world problem. Kumbe even the first world is struggling with it. Yeah, so thank you so much, all the people that contributed. Thank you, Stano, he was here initially, left. Thank you, Maurice, for the angle that you brought. Thank you, El Maestro, for the first-hand experience. Thank you, Morioki, for speaking to professionals about this. Thank you so much, Ndeve, for those insights, especially that explanation you gave on why we have a proliferation of private institutions. I think that was quite eye-opening. And is there any other person I'm forgetting? No, I think those are the ones that spoke. And of course, the moderator. So yes, guys, we will see you in the next Zoom meeting, which is, I believe, on 27th. So have a good night, everyone, or good morning.
Good night.
Good morning.